Hi guys, welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to be upgrading this M2 competition with a bunch of track day upgrades. So this particular customer has dropped off his car. Its current spec is stage 1 ECU software and it's got a Remus back box on it, and now the customer wants to upgrade the handling significantly. So he's going to be using the car a little bit on the road and a little bit on track as well. So during the winter, in preparation for spring, summertime, wants to get all the suspension, all the underneath sorted, so he's ready to enjoy the car next year. So some of the upgrades we've gone for on this car, we've gone for the MOTON 3-way coilover suspension. So it's going to be a significant upgrade from the factory suspension, and we're really looking forward to talking you through all of that. We're going to be upgrading every single arm with the SPL suspension arm. So every single arm is going to be spherically bushed. There's going to be more geometry adjustment and more wheel alignment adjustment, and they'll already exist. So we can get the alignment and geometry dialed in really nicely with the Motons. And then at the back, we're going to be upgrading to a WAVETRAC differential as well. So we're going to get the car in the workshop, we're going to remove the standard components, and then we're going to talk you through all the MOTON suspension, the SPL arms, and the WAVETRAC differential. So we'll see you inside. So we've got the whole SPL catalogue out here in front of us. We're going to be replacing every single arm on the car with an SPL arm and replacing a couple of the bushes as well. So it's going to run you through some of the reasons why we're upgrading to this particular setup. So obviously all of these cars from the factory are going to be pretty much road biased, although it is sort of like marketed as obviously like a track day sports car product. And as such, there's limitations in the wheel alignment. So for example, we're going to be lowering the car. So when we lower the car, usually the standard alignment adjustment goes outside of range. So we can't get the camber or the toe to where we want to. And then also the geometry of the car is negatively affected as well. Increasing things such as bump steer, which you don't want to have, especially on the front axle of the car, and then changing things like the anti-dive as well on the vehicle. So we want to correct all of that on this particular application, because we're fitting very good dampers to the car, good springs, and we're going to be maximizing the grip in one area. We want to make sure we maximize it in the other. So one key thing about all of these arms is that they have what's called spherical bushings. So these spherical bushings replace all the rubber bushings that are on the car from the factory. The rubber bushings are there to reduce the noise, vibration and harshness. So what they also do, because they reduce the noise, vibration and harshness, they allow a lot of movement. So for example, if we're increasing the grip of the car significantly, all of the factory rubber bushings are going to have even more movement through them because they've got a lot more load going through them, and they can fail prematurely and negatively affect the driving experience. So by replacing all of these bushes to spherical bushes, the car is going to feel much more precise when you're driving it, a lot better feedback, because you're not getting all of this wish-washy movement from what's probably about 20 different bushes underneath the car. So that's one of the things. The other thing, like I said, we're going to be one of the problems is the wheel alignment and the geometry. So all of these arms here, let's talk about the front end of the car. So the front end of the car, we have the adjustable camber arms, and what the adjustable camber arms allow us to do is to add camber adjustment where previously there was none on the front axle of the vehicle. So we can increase the negative camber of the vehicle to around about where we want it. From the factory, these cars run about 1.5 degrees of camber, something like that. And then if you're running the car, for example, on like track day tires, you might want to run anywhere between like 2.5 to 3.5 degrees, depending on what kind of setup you have, what kind of tire setup you have. And with the standard arms on the front, that's impossible. So we can optimize it with this. And then also what we have is the bump steer adjustment as well. So what happens generally on the front axles, when you lower the car, the bump steer is increased. And what that means is there's a lot of negative toe change with the suspension travel. And that creates quite an undesirable effect on the front of the car, making it feel quite unstable. So what we want to do is optimize the bump steer. Usually you want to reduce it to something that feels a lot more natural for you to drive behind the steering wheel. So we've got that. Then head into the rear end of the car, we've got a lot of arms. So first of all, we're going to start off with one of the bushes. So in the rear hub, we're replacing one of the rubber bushes with a spherical bush. So what that does, again, what we mentioned earlier, eliminates the bush deflection from the rear end of the car, making it feel much more stable. We've got camber arms, we've got toe arms, and also we have the tension rods as well. So what this allows us to do is to change the anti-squat or anti-dive characteristics from the rear end of the car, so you can control how much the car might squat or might dive. So diving under braking or squatting under acceleration. As well as that, we've got the SPL drop links as well. So basically when you reduce the ride height of the vehicle, you're also going to move out of specification the factory drop links. And what tends to happen is the factory drop link is too long, pushes down on the roll bar and preloads them. So then when you actually do get a situation whereby the roll bar comes into play, it's already preloaded and you get a bit more of an action than what you initially expected. So with that, we can adjust the length to make sure that all nice and non-preloaded. So that is pretty much what we're going to be doing with the SPL suspension arms. So eliminating deflection, adding in wheel alignment adjustment where there wasn't any originally, increasing the wheel alignment adjustment and adding geometry adjustment as well. Just here on my right hand side, we have the original BMW M2 axle, which is exactly the same as the M3 and M4s as well. And actually internally, it's the same as the M5s, slightly different ratios, although on like the M5s, the M6s, but internally the differential is the same. So it's all shared across those platforms. So the standard differential on the M2s, M3s, M4s, M5s and 6s, they are all AE LSD. And what that means is it's electronic locking differential. So it's not just software only, it's software and a mechanical differential as well. So how this works is there is this electric motor which fits on the outside of the differential, and then it's got this gear which acts on this differential here. So basically what happens is the locking percent varies by moving this race sideways, side to side, and it pushes the plates together or pulls them apart. All that does is it changes the locking percent of the differential. So you can have more locking or less locking, so you can go from open to fully locked, depending on what this motor decides it's going to do. Now, this particular complaint on these cars is that the rear end of the car feels really unpredictable, quite snappy, and that is mostly down to the differential because it's completely software controlled rather than being mechanical, and there's a bit of a mismatch between what you as a driver want versus what the electric differential is providing. There's a few different scenarios as well, so it's based off of various different temperatures in the motor, in the oil, in the controller itself. So then if it goes outside of any of those operating parameters, it'll just open up fully and perform like an open differential. And also with these differentials over time, especially nowadays, you get quite a lot of noises coming from the differential because all of the plates inside here begin to wear, and there's quite a lot of open free movement in there, and it reduces the function of the differential and also adds quite a lot of noises as well. So basically you want to get rid of that for this particular track build. So we're installing the WAVETRAC differential. Other interesting thing about installing the WAVETRAC on the BMW axles is that the original, if it doesn't slip out of my hand, the original ring gear is welded to the differential. So to fit a WAVETRAC, we have to separate by machining the ring gear from the differential, and then we drill it and tap it to accept some bolts. Then we can fit this ring gear to the differential. And the benefits that the WAVETRAC differential brings over the standard one is much more predictable handling. So all the customers that we fitted this particular differential to said the car's a lot easier to drive the car closer to the limit, and the limit is much higher than before as well. And it's especially suited to running more motorsport oriented suspension, grippier tires, bigger brakes as well, where for the standard differential goes completely outside of its operating parameters. Other nice thing about the WAVETRAC is it has a lifetime warranty as well, even for motorsport use. So it has no wear components, unlike the factory diff, so the performance stays the same throughout the lifetime of the differential. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about the WAVETRAC diff for this platform. Obviously, let us know if you've got any questions in the comments. Okay, so the MOTON three-way suspension has arrived, and we're just going to talk you through the suspension setup. Now, obviously, this is quite premium suspension. It is motorsport, as in professional motorsport grade. So obviously it carries a little bit of a higher price tag, but if you are using your car on track, and also if you want to enjoy the car on the road, as well as doing some track days, it's actually a really good suspension kit for many different reasons. So being a high-end kit, there's a lot of features on here that you won't find on other kits of the market. So we'll just run through why you might want to consider this kit over some of the other ones, because for example, this is a three-way kit, but you can get three-way kits from other manufacturers on the market that are much lower in price point. But one of the big advantages with a professional motorsport quality kit like this that you don't get with the lower end kits is that when you're actually making the adjustments to like rebound, compression and things like that, they move independently. So if you change the compression, it won't change the rebound. Whereas on the lower end kits, when you change settings, it either doesn't make a particularly big difference to the compression or rebound change, meaning that you can have like 48 clicks that do absolutely nothing until you go down to the very last one, and all of a sudden you have a massive change. Or when you're changing those clicks, it also, say for example, you're changing the compression, it might change the rebound as well. So you don't get any of that with this kit. So just talking about the front damper on this particular kit, which is this. So you've got a camber adjustable top mount, so you're able to slide the damper from side to side to increase or decrease the negative camber. And then you've got the rebound adjustment on the top here, so it's just a nice little click. And it's a very high quality bearing as well that we haven't experienced any issues with, so you're not going to get any knocks and bangs, things like that. And it is also sealed underneath. With the MOTON kit, it's a monotube damper, and what monotube means is that there's just one tube inside here. There's not two, and the advantage of that is you have a very, very wide damper piston, which gives you really good damping sensitivity, so you can feel everything through the steering wheel. And because of that, it can also handle higher damping forces as well. And you'll notice that we have a remote reservoir. Big advantage of the remote reservoirs is that this piston here can now use the whole entire stroke length of the damper, because usually what you would have in the damper body, if it's not a remote damper, is you have a dividing piston in the bottom and a gas fill. Whereas now you have that in the remote reservoir. You have the compression valve here, and then down here you have a dividing piston to the gas. So you have all this extra stroke and also volume of the hydraulic fluid that's inside as well. So obviously as fluids change in temperature, so does their characteristics up to a certain point. So you get a nice consistent performance across sort of like the performance use of this damper. Say for example, you do a 30-minute, hour, 2-hour, 3-hour session, you can have very, very little performance drop off of the suspension kit. So as I was saying, you've got the rebound adjuster in the damper here, and then you've got the compression damper in the remote reservoir here, and then you just adjust the clicks like this. This particular kit we've also spec'd with the dry brakes as well, so you just disconnect these for easy placement around the car, usually on the front, so we put them in the engine bay, and then with the rear dampers we'll put the remote reservoirs inside the car. They come with some adjustable drop links as well, so we can get the preload or the roll bar neutralized. And then going through to the back, we've actually got a full coilover setup, so replacing the factory like rubber mounted top mount with a like clevis mount, so that's a solid mount. And then the spring is now on the damper body as well, so doing away with the factory divorced setup. So this is a bit lighter than your conventional setup, and then also obviously it's got the rebound adjustment in the damper with the separate compression. And if you're not already familiar with compression and rebound damping, compression is the compression of the damper, and then rebound is the rebound. And then what we're controlling with the rebound, for example, is how fast the damper rebounds back to its normal size or releases the spring energy. And then with the compression damping, we're controlling how fast the damper can compress. So you control it in the high speed and the low speed. So what that refers to is high speed is high speed piston movement, and then low speed is low speed piston movement. So high speed would be things like bumps in the road as you're traveling along, and then low speed would be more sort of like your body movement of the car, for example. And these kits as well have another bonus where they have a blow off valve. So when you have very high force events, say for example you hit over quite a big curb on the track, this is going to soak it up really nicely, and then you'll be able to control the release of that as well. So it's going to keep the car super settled. Big advantage again with all these features is you can control pretty much everything, so you've got a good handle on the ride quality of the car as well as the handling as well. So all we've got to do now is get it fitted. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch other videos of ours that YouTube thinks you'll like, then click up here. If you'd like to watch some other videos that we have in the same playlist, then click here. And obviously if you enjoyed the video, then we really appreciate if you gave us a subscription. And then obviously you'll be updated when other videos of ours go live, and you can do that quite easily by clicking here. Hope to see you soon.